Well, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Friday Night Chill with Will. I'm Will, and I hope you guys have been having a good week. Welcome to the Season 2 premiere. You guys should have seen a neat little new title card, and there's some new graphics around me if you're watching the video version of the podcast. But yeah, we have a new logo for the show. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Way more in line with the vibes I wanted for the show. So let me know your thoughts on all that stuff, of course, down in the comments. I'm excited to talk about it with some of you. I think it's fun. But yeah, I hope you guys have been having a good week. My week's been fine. Today was just kind of a weird day. These days happen every now and then where it's just a day where I just spend it kind of comparing myself to other people. And I think this just happens just because we all have like social media in our hands and we're just like scrolling through a bunch of different people's lives every day. And so if you're bored at work like me, you have nothing else to do other than to compare yourself to a bunch of other people and just kind of question every decision you made. We're past it. I was over it by the end of my shift, but it certainly is a thing that happens sometimes, and I feel really weird when it does. But we're through it, we're good, and we're here, and we're at Season 2, baby. But anyway, so tonight we're going to be continuing in the vein of like relationships for the topic, because if there were a few of you that reached out to me and expressed that you enjoyed the topic last week where we talked about open relationships, and very happy to hear that. I'm always very proud of myself when I don't sound like a complete ass when I'm talking about stuff I don't know too much on, but I just kind of share what I know, and that was what I knew. Sometimes, making stuff on the internet, just talking about certain things, you just are not sure how people are going to interpret it or how people are going to take it, and so I am just trying to be respectful whenever I talk about stuff, certain things. But yeah, we're going to keep it in that same vein with relationships. Tonight we're talking about parasocial relationships. And I guess the best example of a parasocial relationship would be if you're listening to this show, and you have been for the past 40 episodes so far, and we haven't really had a full-on conversation. We would technically have a parasocial relationship, me and you. Parasocial relationships are usually one-sided. Either that or there is very clearly one side of the relationship giving more effort than the other. And, they're just kind of relationships formed outside of meeting someone in person. And just kind of the internet has allowed just kind of parasocial relationships to just kind of be the first meeting for I think a lot of people nowadays, especially queer people in rural spaces where gay people aren't as I don't want to say they don't exist, but they aren't as open as say somewhere like here, like Los Angeles, California. That obviously the experience I'm gonna have here is very different for a person living in Florida right now, or the Bible Belt or something like that. Obviously those experiences are different, and so I think the internet has very much provided a good way for queer people to meet others, and it's been through parasocial relationships online. And those are great. I've met a lot of people. I would say parasocial relationships are the main way I've made new friends the past 10 years. I've met people online first, and then we end up meeting in person later. There's been very rarely where I've met a person in real life and then we actually vibe and hang out and develop an actual friendship. And it's interesting because I was kind of talking about last week, my experiences with like hookups and stuff, and how like um, I can kind of overly invest myself emotionally in those types of encounters, and it can be just kind of negative for my psyche, and like it just kind of fucks with my perception of myself. I am able to do that stuff, like that disconnect. I'm able to do that digitally. So, I've had a few parasocial relationships with people, and like, just relationships with people where I've just been exclusively talking to them on the internet for years. And, some of them you never meet, some of them you meet them every now and then. A lot of them have been like old Ranger fans and stuff. We would meet at like a con or something, and that's fine. But there are others where it's just like it doesn't happen, just for one reason or another. And you just kind of have a back and forth on the internet. And, I think especially for queer people, we kind of like the cool thing about being queer is just kind of the freedom we have to just kind of explore like different avenues of relationships with people. But that freedom can kind of like get things kind of confusing sometimes, can make things confusing sometimes, because we can cross certain boundaries with certain people, like, because there are plenty of people I know that are able to like fuck their friends, and it's like not a big deal, and they can just keep being friends, and that's just how it is. And I would say I have a few friends like that. It does sound kind of weird, but it's, I don't know, I think it only feels weird because a lot of queer people, at least in my experience, have like a lot of religious trauma, and so the way we perceive physical intimacy with people is very different, and there's a lot of shame involved with it, even though there really is nothing to be ashamed about. So I think that's what a lot of it boils down to. But yeah, I think online I'm able to flip that switch and just kind of have encounters like that, kind of like of a sexual nature, online. I can do those like a lot easier than I can with a person face to face in front of me, because the person is not face to face in front of me. And so I think it's that I guess it's a sort of object permanence for me, where if I don't see it, then it's not there. And I think that has kind of caused confusion for a few people. And the whole reason I'm even like talking about this, what kind of inspired this episode, was someone that had followed me, that had been keeping up with pretty much every project I had been doing on the internet for the past few years, unfollowed me recently. And this was a person that like we had pretty casual back and forth with each other, and then we had a few spicy interactions here and there, or whatever, like some flirty dialogue here and there. But I think what ended up happening is they perceived our relationship as one type of thing, and I just was not reciprocating that, because, especially if I'm talking to someone who knows me from making stuff on the internet, I kind of, I want to say this right. I don't take it seriously. And what I mean by that is like, I'm just kind of expecting friendly banter. You know what I mean? Like if I'm talking to you guys like in DMs or something, I'm just kind of expecting a friendly back and forth. I'm not actually expecting anything to happen at all. I'm not expecting anything about anything to happen. So that's where I'm at. And I think what happened is just they were perceiving our relationship maybe as some type of thing that it wasn't. And I don't know, maybe they just got frustrated and then just kind of unfollowed me. And this same type of situation has happened a couple times over the past few years. And that's the only thing I can think of to kind of not justify, but just explain the situation to myself, because from my perspective, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong, you know. I'm just kind of chilling out and, you know, hanging out on the internet, you know. And so if you're feeling some type of way and you don't tell anyone, obviously they're not gonna know. So it's kind of weird because, like, some of these people, like, we've talked for a long time, and some of them we've had like pretty deep conversations with, and then ultimately they just decide to cut it off and be done. And there's been a few like that, and I think that's just kind of the nature of relationships in general. I mean, parasocial relationships are just like any other kind that happen in real life and on the internet. You know, friends on the internet come and go, and, you know, new people leave and come out of your life, and that's just life, you know. It's just how it is. And the same rules online apply to offline. Strike that, reverse it. That's what I meant to say. But I mean, the rules are the same. So moments like that have just kind of like caused confusion for me throughout the years, because it's just like, I don't know, it's just weird that like people can have like moments like that where they're just like so intimate with people, and then they're just like, oh, okay, not anymore. We're done now. Especially on the internet, because the internet is just like the click of a button, and you can like unfollow someone and block them too, so you never have to talk to them ever again. And I've done that too, with people that I've, you know, met online. We met in person, and then things didn't work out, and so I'm like, okay, cool, so I'm done. And so it's just a button you can press and just be done with people. It's very weird how that happens, but again, it's just life. But so yeah, those situations have happened, and I was just sort of made aware of the most recent instance of it happening, and I just started to think more just about like parasocial relationships in general, and just kind of my relationship with those relationships. Especially recently, I've been talking to, you know, a handful of new people online and stuff, and I've had the spicy exchange here and there with this person that I do not really know. You know, we talk fairly regularly, I would say, and I've been able to communicate with them in a pretty transparent way, I think, and I think they are all very aware that, you know, our relationship is an online relationship, and so we kind of know where to draw the boundaries. And I think that's the key, because especially as queer people, we're like desperate for community in any avenue in our life. And so when it comes to like trying to meet people, we're trying to put our best foot forward, but sometimes we can just misstep and kind of like overdo it and just kind of create a version of ourselves that just is a version we think we need to be in order to be attractive to other people. And I'm just speaking in terms of like being attractive, in terms of like being someone wants to talk to, you know, just kind of like different personality quirks. But, you know, what I've discovered is like, if you're transparent with people will always appreciate that. People always appreciate you being genuine with them. And that has been key for me on the internet and like talking with people. And that's what they've enjoyed about me. So if it works for me, it can work for you. So I would suggest doing stuff like that. But, I've been meeting those people very recently, and, we've had the spicy exchange here and there, and those exchanges have been perfectly fine. I've been able to detach myself in a way where we can have that, but then, like, a couple paragraphs later, we could be talking about something totally different than the smut we were just talking about 5 minutes ago, And that's just kind of how things can be sometimes. Obviously, this is the same thing. The same rules apply to this as open relationships, monogamous relationships, all these things. Not everything is going to work for everyone. The key to all of it is just talking with people and figuring out what works for you. And if something starts being a problem, I think it's important to address those things. That way you can figure those things out. I think those two people I'm thinking of where, the friendship kind of got weird or whatever, and then they just unfollowed me or whatever. I feel like those situations could have been remedied if they would have just, came to me and told me what was going on, but they ultimately didn't, and that ends up not being my problem. So it is what it is, and we just gotta keep pushing on, and that's just life. So that's just how it is sometimes, and it kind of sucks, but it's just life. Friends come and go, people come and go from your life, and that's just how it is. And it's cool to have people around for very long periods of time, but nothing is permanent, and that's just kind of a reality I've accepted, and I just try and be in the moment and enjoy people for the time that they're around, because nothing is guaranteed, so might as well just enjoy them while they're around. So, yeah, man. That's my little spiel on parasocial relationships. So, if you're watching this and you've ever and me and you haven't talked before, I don't want this to be a deterrent from you trying to reach out to me and talking, because I don't want that to be the case. If you guys feel comfortable enough talking to me, go ahead and reach out. But I would just advise, if you're going to do that, or if you're going to do that to other people you share a parasocial relationship with on the internet, I would just suggest being your most authentic and transparent self possible, and see where that takes you. And also be ready to accept the fact that the person you are reaching out to may not be interested in pursuing some type of friendship. Because that's just a thing that happens. Not everyone's going to vibe with everyone. And it doesn't mean either of you are a bad person. It just means you don't vibe. And a lot of times, it's pretty easy to tell early on if you are vibing with someone. And I think that's an important distinction to make. And you should just try and be aware of that type of stuff. So if someone's kind of being short with you, or, they're not asking a lot of reciprocating questions, then I think you can take that as a sign that to just kind of pull it back a little bit, and just kind of recognize that it's more of an acquaintance type of thing. It's more just a professional type of relationship. It's just nothing. It's just a friendly interaction at best, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, yeah, do with that information what you will. That's just kind of my experience with parasocial relationships, and they are what they are. They can be pretty cool. I've met quite a few cool people on the internet, and we've had quite the back and forths, and some of them I've known for over 10 years and I haven't met them yet. There's a few I will be meeting in a few months when Paramorphicon happens. So that'll be cool. But yeah, some things are just what they are, and just accept that. So, any hoozles. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys liked the episode and you are on YouTube, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe so you can see more episodes when I put them up on Fridays. And if you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the other podcast hosts, if you could rate or review the podcast, that would be great. I would appreciate that. I would love you forever. So if you want to keep up with anything else I got going on the internet, you can find me anywhere on the internet pretty much at Willie J. Co. So yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this season 2 premiere. I'm excited to be doing this for another year with you all, and I'm excited to do even more exciting stuff with you guys. So thanks so much for watching again, and I will see you guys next week for another Friday Night Chill.